Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. My name is Pat Southwell. I'll be your host. I'm a licensed electrical inspector, and we are doing this on behalf of Radio Carrum, community radio station in Melbourne. Before we start the show, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of where we're recording this today, and that's the Boon Wurrung people of the Kulin Nations. And I pay my respects to all elders past, present, and emerging. Also, I'd like to mention it's been Reconciliation Week, which I've really enjoyed watching the Welcome to Countries, in watching the footy I have on the TV the last couple of weeks, so that's been great. Recap from last week's show. So we had David Pethick come in from Omnidian, so thanks again to David for coming in. It was a really good show and gave us some good insights on what you're doing at your company, so thank you so much. I also mentioned about SAA and the CPD. So they actually got back to me. The question I asked them was, is core and elective CPD still there, or is it a thing of the past? Because I did hear that it was gone, but I couldn't find it in writing anywhere. Anyway, I reached out to them with an email, and they got back to me really quickly and told me that I'm correct. It is a thing of the past, and they sent me a link. So that is on the SAA website. So thank you very much for that, and that was Scott from the CPD team. So thanks very much, Scott from SAA, for organising that. All right, first of all, let's get into our guest that we have for today. So today we have flying in all the way from Adelaide, we have Jess Macpherson, design consultant at NRG. Welcome to Radio Carrum, Jess.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Long flight, so...
Yeah, 50 minutes, an hour, something like that.
Depends if you count the time difference or not, really.
Yeah, that's right. You almost land at the same time, don't you?
Thereabouts.
Yeah, that's cool. Good stuff. Thanks for making it out to Radio Carrum. Got a nice sunny morning in Melbourne, which is good. And I think you were out here checking out all the dogs in the park when we got here.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, there's always plenty of dogs running around at Roydor Reserve. And you got the train out. You took the train out.
I had to see the best train station in Melbourne, Pat. I had to see it.
Yeah, I did word you up with that, and hopefully you agree. It's a great
very
train.
nice.
It's a great train station with a beautiful view. So let's get into a bit of an intro about you, Jess. There's a couple of things I want to mention about you. So first of all, let's go with the normal question I have. Are you a solar sidekick, or are you a solar superhero?
I definitely think everyone's saying that they're a solar sidekick. I think we all feel like solar sidekicks, but maybe what I will say is I really want to be a solar superhero. That's the aim. That's where we're reaching for.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for that. You've everyone else has just gone with the flat out answer. I'm just a sidekick. Everyone else is the superhero. So thanks very much for that. I appreciate you. Not being no, you are. You're quite humble. I won't say you're not as humble, but yeah, it's good. I think pretty much most of the guests I try and get on are superheroes, and yeah, it's good to think that everyone's not up themselves or anything like that. Now, I want to, before we get into too much about your career or anything, first thing I want to mention about you is. I don't think it was the first time we met, but first time we sort of had too much to do with each other would have been at the WISE event last year. So, I've spoken a couple of times about this. What's your version of the events? How do you think it all sort of happened?
the incident, as it were.
Yeah.
It was such a great day. I mean, I was really excited to do the AWAS event again. I'd done it the year before, and it was so inspiring.
I think that's where I met you, actually, at the one the year before.
Yeah, I mean, you meet so many people, right? You try and remember all the right names, but those events are just the best people, people together for really, really great reasons.
Yeah.
But I remember that the amazing, what would we call her, hostess, the person who was taking us through some sort of PD activities, personal development activities, was struggling to get some people up on the stage, and I guess we're the sort of people that will like make eye contact and smile. Easy victims. So we were hauled up on stage. I think Sam Craft volunteered me, and I think you'd answered. I answered a question about that I'd been watching The Voice or something like that. Foolish mistake. We were hauled up on stage. There was somebody else with us, and I can't remember her name, but she was also really lovely.
We will find out who that is. I can't remember either.
She was awesome as well. But essentially it was everyone is very stressed about public speaking. How about public singing? Just to go one step further.
It was basically let's get thrown out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And here you go. Get up and sing. That's pretty much what it was, wasn't it?
But you put on a good show, Pat.
Look, I tried. I did try my look, I must say, I struggled a little bit to think of something on the spot.
Same.
That was really hard. And I ended up going with like one of my favourite songs. It was probably not the best like singing song. So anyway, look, I was pretty happy with the way it went. And because you had such an encouraging crowd, everyone was sort of all behind us and all that sort of stuff. And it was great fun. I had so much fun doing that and sharing the stage with you. So I hope you shared that sentiment as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are the chances of us recreating that moment, do you think, Jess? Just for the podcast.
I'm game for the dear podcast listeners.
All right, no worries. All right. So that means I'm going to have to do it too. So what do? Do we flip a coin to go see who goes first? Or should I just go first because I'm the host?
You should go first because you're the host for sure.
All right, no worries. So I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable now.
It's a different kind of radio show now.
It absolutely is. And there's no hiding from any audio here. All right, so I'm going to go with a bit of an old favourite, some Sonia Data. Okay, now I just got to think of how the bit I want to sing starts.
The bit that's like mama, mama.
No, it's no. Oh, gee, this is actually really stressful.
You don't treat me no
good. That's the bit. Yeah, but there's the bit where it goes a cappella. Yeah, I've got it. All right, ready? Here we go. Well, I wake up blue almost every night, and I'm hurting so bad 'cause you don't treat me right. Oh, woman, you know I love you so, but you're so mean to me, baby. I'm walking out the door. Oh, lover, yeah. Whoa, lover, you don't treat me no good no more. Oh, no.
Amazing.
Now, I had a little bit of a croaky throat last night, but I thought I'd say that afterwards because I thought if I say it before, that's sort of, that's cheating a little bit. I was a little bit out of key, but anyway, all right.
That's fine.
I'm a little bit more relaxed now. I'm looking forward to your little.
Oh, good.
What did
I say I was going to do?
Hold
on. Yeah, I remember.
Well, I've heard your pipes, and you're quite talented. So.
Well, in another life, I think maybe I say at the ripe old age of 26. Well, you done me and you bet I felt it. I tried to be chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks, and now I'm trying to get back. There you go.
Too good.
Don't tell. I'm gonna have to. I don't want to give customers the expectation that that's the solar experience.
You'll be the solar singer. Yeah, they're gonna be wanting to. They're not gonna want to buy solar unless you sing for them.
You know what though? I would take that any day of the week. Like if that gets me the sale, 100%.
I love it. Yeah, good.
People do wild things in sales. I hear.
Absolutely. Oh, all right. There we go. What a start to the episode. What a start to episode 9. All right. Okay. So all right. Let's change speeds. Next. While we've got you in here, I want to include you in this first conversation. So I'm going to get someone else in from the industry, just to have a little chat. It's going to be the first time we've spoken to someone remotely on Solar Sidekicks. And what we're going to do is have a chat about the New South Wales battery rebate, which has been a point of contention, I suppose, for the industry. You'd think a rebate would be good news for the industry. It probably is on some fronts, and some fronts it's not, but it's definitely been a big talking point. So we're going to have Bobbi McKibbin She lives basically on the border of Victoria and New South Wales. And we're going to get her to join in just a few moments, and she's going to talk about it from her point of view, and we're going to see how it's affecting the solar and battery businesses. But just before we start that, Jess, you've had a bit of an experience with this with the battery rebate in South Australia. Is that right?
Yeah. So I first started. Basically, the entryway from my old job into this job was the home battery scheme ending. So they'd been reducing it since before I sort of started in the industry. But it was like something that I'd heard about from very early on in my sort of starting in the solar space about people waiting because of waiting for rebates.
Yeah, right.
And for a lot of people, the time that they wait, they would have saved more money than the extra money they're going to get from this upfront. Plus, there's the risk of the product prices going up as they, battery prices have been going up pretty steadily since 2019.
Yeah.
Plus or minus a bit for COVID.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty disappointing to see New South Wales not learn from the mistakes
how
of
annoying.
SA.
Of course, people are going to not buy when the government releases a rebate and then says, "Oh, it's not starting for another 6 months or whatever."
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to not buy. Like it's just.
And there'll be a rocky start. There always is. Like submitting the applications and whatever. Like it's always a transition period, and we'll give a bit of grace there. But in the meantime, people will be twiddling their thumbs.
All right. Well, let's get Bobbi. Actually, let's try and do this seamlessly. I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to just try and grab Bobbi now. And she knows we're calling her. Oh, here we go. We're just going to go live. I said we weren't going to do this, but we are.
Hello.
Hey, Bobbi. How you going?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks. I said we weren't going to go straight into recording. I was going to let you know first, but guess what? We're recording. So welcome to Solar Sidekicks, Bobbi.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Okay, I don't think you need too much of an introduction, Bobbi McKibbin. No. So I've already given you a bit of an intro that you live and work up near the New South Wales border. And you've run a solar and battery business, and everyone knows you anyway. So
yeah,
solar legend.
Solar legend. All right, so Bobbi, we're just you able to let our listeners know sort of what this battery rebate kind of means? We just had a little bit of a chat about what it's going to mean for some businesses because it hasn't been. It's not going to start till November. But are you able to just give us a bit of a rundown on what you know about it so far?
Yeah, so the New South Wales government announced a battery rebate, which is fantastic. We want to see more of it. I would love to see a federal rebate. However, that's not happening just yet. Hopefully we get something in the future. But yeah, the New South Wales, as usual, governments make that announcement and they forget to consider what's going to happen in the meantime. So they've announced that there's going to be a rebate between $1,200 and $2,400 for batteries in New South Wales. Capacity, they're looking at between 2 kilowatt hours and 28 kilowatt hours as eligibility. You have to be able to claim them through an ACP, I think is the acronym. So an approved certificate. I think it's approved certificate provider. Which basically is what we all call aggregators.
Okay.
So,
what, like an STC trader?
STC traders, that's
okay.
right.
Yeah,
They have to be approved for the New South Wales program.
Okay, fair
enough.
So
they're the ones who are going to have to go through all of that. And then we obviously install a battery and claim it through our aggregator. And then they claim it from the government or whatever their process is there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things. That also has to be able to be hooked up to the VPP that they want to bring in as well as a part of this. So there's two, it's like the rebate's sort of split into two. One's on the battery and one's on the VPP connection. So, yeah, there's a lot of details still to come out of this that we don't know. It's got to be on the DER register as well. That's something else that we have to comply with in New South Wales.
Yep. That's everywhere now, isn't it? Isn't the DER everywhere now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
So it's just it's as usual. The the cart's going before the horse.
Yeah.
And they just haven't given it great consideration. So the Smart Energy Council held a webinar on it the other day, which was fantastic.
Yep.
And it was really well attended from people that obviously are going to be dealing with this in their businesses. And there was a lot of questions and queries that come out of that as well. And I know the Smart Energy Council have got more questions to go back to the government with about asking how can we make this not have the impact on the industry that it's going to have between now and November.
So are we already past that point now though? Like, because if you were thinking about buying batteries in the next few months, you're clearly now waiting until November. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
So
yep.
it's already going to show a massive impact. And
yes.
Yeah.
We've experienced in Victoria, South Australia's experienced it, and anybody who's been in the industry long enough knows what the ebbs and flows are of when governments say yes, go, and no, don't, stop. It just is absolutely like a tap where they turn it on and then they turn it off, and it has the ability to actually crush businesses, which is really sad.
I'm so frustrated at hearing all of this. Surely there's some lessons that have been learned. Jess is just talking about what happened in South Australia. It sounds very similar to when Solar Vic started. This definitely wouldn't happen in Victoria now, because I would think Solar Vic would know what the backlash and the impact of the industry would be.
Yeah. I think it's really funny, Pat, you say that, because Solar Victoria got a whole lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
At the start, but they have acknowledged that, and what they have done is through the Industry and Consumer Reference Group, the ICRG that they host, they have turned that around, and now that program is so good. So it's sort of frustrating that governments don't talk to one another and say, what was your experience? How did you handle this? What if we do that? What does that mean? So one thing I would absolutely encourage any government is to create some sort of body or advisory committee that is made up of consumers and industry, so that you can get amazing information and make your program as wonderful as you want it to be.
100%, Bobbi. Look, that's I wouldn't expect anything but wise words from you, and you're pretty engaged with these governments and that sort of stuff as well. Did they come to? Were you part of any group that they came to for any consultation or anything like that? Have you heard of has there been any consultation with industry before they decided to announce this?
No, I'm not 100% sure what
enough.
has gone on to get to this. But one of the things I want to point out, Pat, is the capacity that they've got on these systems. So 2 kilowatt hour battery to 28 kilowatt hour battery. What is a 2 kilowatt hour battery actually going to do for a consumer?
Yeah, I thought that too.
And what is a 2 kilowatt hour battery actually going to do for the network if they're looking at creating grid stability through a VPP?
Are they locking people into the VPP? Have they said yet? Is it a time frame, like a year, 2 years? They might not have said yet.
Minimum of 6 years left on. Hang on. An existing battery compliant with the above is connected to a VPP, providing a minimum of 6 years are left on product warranty. So I don't know. I don't think that actually relates to the VPP there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I've just got a page open that's good reference.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Very frustrating times. I just would, just keep banging on about this, but they just don't. I don't know. Governments just don't seem to listen, especially in New South Wales. They're horrible at this sort of stuff.
Well, and that's another point that I brought up, and I know this is a topic so close to your heart, Pat.
Oh, here we go. You're just winding me up now, Bobbi. I can tell. I know where this is going.
Mandatory inspections.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am really concerned about what's going to happen if we don't have mandatory inspections in New South Wales around safety of batteries, and just this being a free-for-all. We've seen it time and time again in the solar industry. But now we've got batteries, and batteries are a much higher risk.
The sharks are flogging the 2 kilowatt hour batteries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Are they ever? So do you know, has that been mentioned in any of the media releases or anything like that about inspections? Because I know Queensland, with their battery rebate, I think it was on a bit of a smaller scale, but they're having every system inspected from my understanding, I think.
Yes. That's my understanding, that Queensland have introduced something similar to what you're saying.
I think GSES are doing it or something. I think I might have read that this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I know under the ACP, and I'm really sorry if I've got that acronym wrong.
Yep.
It's just something that, we have too many acronyms in this industry. They will be audited fairly heavily, I believe.
Yep.
And they're looking at that as a way of quality assurance. But,
so is this like
better.
Is this like the CER caring more about fraud than electrical safety? Sorry, I won't. I can't believe I said that.
You're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud, Pat.
No. Look, I'm not. Look, that might not be the case. It just comes across that way a little bit because they do seem to. The CER do seem to concentrate quite heavily on making sure the installers at the site and that they are the ones doing the install, and they're not overseas or whatever. And I agree, that should be a good thing. But maybe electrical safety is something that can actually kill people. So that's important, I think.
That's probably one of the things I find really frustrating is that when we are in a high risk industry and things go wrong, and things can go wrong in any industry anytime, and accidents happen, whatever.
Yep.
But unfortunately, because we are in a high risk industry, when things go wrong, they can go very, very wrong and quite unforgiving. So that's where we just really, I think this is a perfect segue into mandatory inspections, and let's start seeing it roll out across the nation, because our industry will be a whole lot better for it.
Wow. Good stuff. Let's just wrap the podcast up there. I don't have to say anything else. You've just nailed it all there, Bobbi. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that, Bobbi. Anything else you can offer on that, or is that pretty much you've covered most of the main topics there?
I think that's probably it at the moment. Hopefully we'll start getting some more information, but we really need to start hammering our governments to start, encouraging connections with industry, so that way they will be better prepared for that, and industry's better prepared for it as well. So I think it's fabulous that we have rebates, and our industry is built on rebates. I know there's a lot of people that want to see rebates gone, but they are the reason why we have so many people employed, and it is also the way that we will get to our energy transition faster than what we would without.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think they are quite important. Do you think it's too late, or you reckon there's still time for the government to sort of jump up and say, all right, we kind of made a blue here, let's engage and consult? Do you think there's still time for that?
Yes, absolutely, but they need to act swiftly. Okay,
so anyone from New South Wales government listening to Solar Sidekicks, please engage with the industry. That would be very helpful, not just to us, but to the consumers and all the people who are working in the solar industry. All right, good stuff.
And can I just take this one moment to say, Pat, you are doing an amazing job with these podcasts, and I absolutely look forward to them every week coming out to see who your guests are, because you have the best guests. So congratulations and thank you. And I know so many people are excited by it. So well done.
Thanks very much, Bobbi. Appreciate that.
Hear, Bobbi.
Thank you. Got a few goosebumps when you said that. Thank you. Thanks so much. And just before we let you go, Bobbi, so are you willing to jump in with the theme of today's show and drop a few bars of your favourite tune?
She's going through a tunnel.
Honestly, how you two did that there Wise event last year, I was just sitting there in awe thinking, oh my God, thank God that was not me, because I would have just walked off that stage. Nobody needs to be subjected to me singing before 10 p.m. and I have to have a minimum of half a dozen vodkas under my belt first. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's what I should have done. I should have asked for we should have done a shot first at least.
Yeah, we should have. Yeah, it's about 20 past 10 in the morning here. Yeah, mate, we could have. We could have done it. Exactly. We could have done
Spice it up a bit.
Yeah. Oh well. Wait till you hear what we've got in store, Bobbi. What we just.
I cannot wait.
All right.
And Jess, you are amazing. So I'm a total fangirl. So it's been wonderful to see you come into the industry and just absolutely flourish. So NRG are very lucky to have you.
Oh, you've left some big shoes for me to step into, Bobby, but thank you.
All right, and I cannot wait to hear this song.
All right, no worries. Well, thanks very much for joining us on Solar Sidekicks, Bobby. I'll speak to you probably, I don't know, in the next week or so anyway. But yeah, really appreciate you offering your insight. And yeah, thanks for joining the show.
No worries at all. Have fun, guys.
Will do. Thank you.
See ya.
All right, see ya. All right, so interesting stuff, Jess. What do you reckon? That was anything you learnt about there from Bobby? Or it's all pretty much the normal stuff that that you'd expect, I suppose, from a government that's not engaging, I suppose, which is a bit frustrating.
I find it interesting, like the scaling amount. Like I guess the incentive scaling between, what did she say, like $1,200 to $2,400.
Yeah.
Like it's not a lot of, like on a bigger battery, which is what we should be encouraging for people, like the sort of size that they need. Versus like it might half the cost of something that's really small. I don't know how it's going to scale, but proportionally speaking.
I feel like also when you have a battery size sort of that small, you're kind of just encouraging the sharks a little bit too to just go in with some cheap system.
Yeah. Well, we're doing, like, we do a lot of service work, we always have, and like, we're taking a lot of batteries off walls, and sometimes we're replacing them, but sometimes it's just literally not even worth keeping. Like it's more of a hindrance than it's worth keeping. Yeah. And even if you don't spend as much, you've still spent probably a good couple grand on one of these cheap,
they're not cheap,
shitty batteries.
I know, that's right. They're not cheap. Exactly. Oh,
it's disappointing to tell people that they've wasted their money. Like it's, you don't want to have that conversation with people. You want to say, you've made a great choice and here's how we can make it better. But unfortunately, we just don't get to have those conversations.
Yeah. Frustrating. Anyway, we've got a long way to go in this industry with that sort of stuff. And I mean, hopefully these type of conversations can help government listen. Because that's all it takes, a bit of consultation, talk to the people in the industry who know we're there, we're doing it, we're speaking to these people, we understand what's going on.
Anyway. And I think we're pretty lucky. Like SA Power Networks does a lot of, like, who's, NRG gets to work with quite a lot.
Yep.
And I don't know, I feel like they do listen to us quite a bit. Sometimes, there's not much they can do, but there's a lot of compromise. There's a lot of, trying to accommodate what we're actually going to be dealing with. So pretty lucky there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Oh, well, let's move the show on. Anyway.
Could talk about it all day, couldn't
we? We could. And I don't want to make this a whinge fest either, but I just thought it was a significant announcement and it deserved a little bit of airtime, and hopefully to all our people in New South Wales, we're in your corner too. Like we're hoping that something does turn around and you are able to sell solar and battery up until November, I suppose. We don't want business going under. All right. So we were sort of halfway before we digress with the singing. Let's have a little bit of chat about, before we go to our first ad break, we'll have a bit of a chat about your role and what you do at NRG Solar. So do you want to just explain NRG Solar first of all? So you're a solar company based out of Adelaide.
Yeah, that's right. So as the story goes, 10 years ago, Eddie was on the golf course and his mate had a old solar system that was falling apart. The installer was out of business, of course, and Eddie went, I'm pretty sure I have a mate who does solar. Let me see if he can help you out. And then sort of went, there's probably a lot of people in this situation. Yeah, I could probably make a business out of this.
Yeah, right.
I was actually, so that's like 2014. I was graduating high school. I went to high school with Eddie's son.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Adelaide's tiny. Everyone knows everyone. But
it's bigger than Tassie.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
True. I mean, bar low. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's spent a year servicing systems. He calls it like the apprenticeship period of NRG Solar. And, you see the stuff that works and doesn't work and the stuff that can sort of stand the test of time in the conditions that we're actually dealing with versus like stuff that maybe does really well in Europe or America and just can't hack it here. So, build a lot of relationships in the industry. And then, a few years later, I was roommates with aforementioned Eddie's son and saw an ad come up for a job. COVID had just hit. I was in my third year of uni doing health and med sci, completely different direction. And I was loving it, doing really well. But, doing practical work, like a very practical based degree in COVID. They were like, if you can find something else to do it.
Really? Is that sort of what they said?
Well,
like, kind of put it on pause almost, was it?
Kind of. Like, our professors were like, we don't know how, like, you're supposed to be, I hope nobody's eating, but like, you're supposed to be like doing cadaver work and doing placement. Like, that's what this year is supposed to be for you. And all of my jobs were in hospitality, which was also shut down. I know we didn't get shut down as bad as Victoria, but like,
you copped it pretty bad, I think. You still copped it pretty bad.
Yeah. So I'm going, I need to pay rent. And sort of saw this gig and thought, well, I've got two hands. I can pick up some phones. And it was like a very admin based, almost like a receptionist kind of role as the new inquiries coordinator.
Yep.
And then it got its hooks in me and I fell in love. And I sort of haven't really looked back. I think all energy of that year.
2022, is that it?
Yeah.
That was the first one we had in like 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. And Sam Kraft and Eddie May and Dan Calhoun, who are our directors, were very, very generous to let me go because, like, I think the sort of role that I had wasn't very, I don't know, I could see why they'd maybe want to send, like, one of the sales guys or, like, service techs or, I don't know, people who could, like, get a bit more out of it. But I got so much out of it.
I think they saw something in you then. Yeah. That's for sure. Well, it's easy to talk yourself down, isn't it?
I just, I got my little hands into everything, right? I started managing the service work and like learning a lot. Like, it was getting to a point where the amount of knowledge I had was like almost not helping me do my job well because I was like, like if my job is to sell an appointment with a design consultant, but I have all the information, it sort of like stops. I sort of had to hold myself back, and I don't think they wanted me to do that, So they found a way for me to just do what I was doing.
That's so lovely that you've worked your way into that, and just from doing the role that you were, like, what, receptionist or what is that? What it was? Was it receptionist?
New inquiries coordinator. But I answered most of the phones, and it was a lot of admin-y, coordination-y stuff. Yeah,
you're the front of the business. You're on the coalface as we speak. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And so now you're doing like design consultant.
Mm-hmm.
What usually does that entail? What's your normal sort of day look like?
Yeah, so we now we get the leads and we take them all the way through the sort of consultation process to a design, whether that's something that's a bit more like remote or as often as we can, really. We want to go out to site and actually do a very thorough like sort of site plan of it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. And do you work much with the installers?
Yeah, so we're really lucky. All of our teams are in-house, so we sort of have really good relationships with all of them.
Yep.
But it's a lot of the time it's like they sort of will call you up and they'll say, hey, I can see this job that's coming up later this week. Did you think about doing it this way? Like, would this be better? Did the customer have a reason they wanted this there, et cetera, which is really lovely. Or, sometimes you'll get a call that's like, hey, why did you think this works? Because it definitely doesn't. And you get to learn from that experience.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen too often.
I'm sure there's times where you go, it's because of this reason. And then they're like, that makes sense.
Yeah. But, on the other foot, sometimes they'll say, hey, I know that you were probably trying to dodge this shade or whatever, but I think actually they'll get more out of it. You run the numbers and you go, they get like an extra, couple 100 kilowatt hours a year. Let's do it. And then you can sort of take it to the customer and it shows a really good level of care.
Yep.
When you're like, hey, the design I had was great, but I can do better. Like, let's do it this way. It's really cool.
Very good. I'm interested, if someone calls up NRG and they've got an issue and they ask for the service department, what happens there?
Yeah, we have in-house tech support. So at the moment, we're actually incredibly lucky to have Doug, who's previously done like our like on-the-ground service work. He's like an actual like electrician.
Yep.
He's taking a lot of those calls right now. And it means that for a lot of people, their issue gets sorted out, within minutes, if not days. as much as possible.
Yeah. So were you doing that role a bit too as well before?
I wasn't supposed to, but I can't help myself. I've got the two hands gene, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh well, you know, Fronius Portal's pretty easy. Let me just push an update out. She'll be right. Yes, I'm very much a learn as I go person. So
yeah.
I'm not really. It's not really like my job description, but I like to.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So were you every now and then like you take a call from like an angry customer or something like that where they don't know anything. They're just calling up sometimes to vent or whatever, and they want to speak to someone in service. You were taking some of those calls?
Yeah, well, you know, I was often the first person to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think being a young, bubbly kind of like a young woman in you get a lot of people who assume that you are just a receptionist.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes you know, a lot of people in that kind of position say you sort of have to prove your salt a little bit. But I think on the other foot, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I can get a guy to tell you the exact same thing. Like if that's what you need, you know, we can do that, but it's going to take like, you know, it's going to take a bit more time, or you can just let me sort you out. You know?
I used to hate that working for solar retailers. That would happen a lot because I would be, a lot of the time, I'd be the technical person in the office and a female would answer the phone, speak to somebody and tell them the right thing because they knew it. And then I'd get on the phone and tell them the exact same thing. They're like, oh, right. Oh, that's right. And it's like,
we had this infamous customer. Like we knew his phone number when it popped up on the phone. Like that's how often he called. And I still remember this one time that he called and he was like, I need to speak to Nick, who was our sort of our head service like tech support guy at the time. I need to speak to him. I'm not speaking to anyone else. And I was like, I'm not putting you through to Nick until you can tell me what's going on. You can tell me what's going on, then I'll put you through happily. And when he explained the situation, I was like, is maybe like your phone not connected to the internet? Like is maybe that? And he's just the moment of like realization and embarrassment. And it's kind of like that is embarrassing behavior, frankly. But you know, you've got to sort of ride that line of customer service, but also sort of saying like, how much are we supposed to facilitate this behavior as a business? You know, how much of Nick's time do you deserve? I don't think you need it, actually.
For sure. We actually went the episode 3 when I spoke to Christine Kennedy. We spoke about this a fair bit, and when customers sort of behave, I suppose it's kind of inappropriately, really. How much do you pull them up, and how much do you like? Because they are still your customer. You've got your morals as well, and you just got to balance and walk that line. And that can be really difficult. Is that what you find as well? That can be a difficult line to walk?
Absolutely.
Because you want to be professional.
Yeah, and you know, like coming from like bars and things where you've had like, you know, you have to kick people out and stuff like that. Like it's very different when you're sort of just on the phone. I think I got to learn a lot from Anne, who does a lot of our sort of handling those sorts of situations. And yeah, she's got it down to an art form, and I got to sort of learn from her how to sort of say, no, I'm not accepting that. However, like, how can we move forwards? And yeah, you know, again with this guy who called all the time, like, you know, when it's at the point where you recognize the digits of somebody's phone number, like it's kind of like, you know that the issue is them and probably something else going on in their life.
Yeah.
And they're probably just like a lonely old man and they just need an excuse to have a chinwag on the phone with somebody who will give them the time of day. But, you know, end of the day, you're trying to run a sustainable business. Yeah. And it shouldn't cost the other customers in like your wages almost indirectly to facilitate like, inappropriate behavior is definitely the right word for it.
Yeah, most definitely. Do you find being female in a male-dominated industry, which we're trying to turn it around now, there is still mainly males in the industry. Do you find the need to have to prove yourself over and over again? Is that something is that a common theme, or you think, like most people you talk to, they give you the respect straight away, or?
I think you get good at picking the people you need to prove it to as well. Like you almost get a bit of a sixth sense for the like, you know, ex-engineer or what, you know, whatever. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. The people who are a bit clippy and a bit rude, and maybe in Adelaide where like, you know, people probably have a bit more time than they do in say Sydney by comparison. Yep. You know, you sort of get a bit of a sense for it, but yeah, you definitely do. I guess I'd say that once you do prove your mettle to them, like, they're ride or die for you as well, which
Great.
is something else. It's quite nice that you know once they believe you and they trust you that they are going to trust everything else that you have to say.
Yeah.
And then you can genuinely and authentically say you will have a better experience by getting your solar from us. You will 100% have a better install, a better throughout the lifetime of it, the whole experience.
Better experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Oh, that's cool. I wanted to mention, I saw a couple of videos pop up of you on LinkedIn. So you want to tell me a bit about your whiteboard?
Well, so Luke is our marketing guru, and he has a background in like creating videos, I think for like clubs. So it makes total sense that he's now doing videos for a solar company. But he's amazing. He's an absolute wizard.
Yep.
And he asked me to do some videos talking about flexible exports, actually. And while we were there, he asked me a question about sort of why a solar system kind of has two sizes. And so I was like trying to talk him through it, and I was like, let me just draw it out for you. And I sort of did it on the whiteboard behind.
Sorry, what do you mean two sizes? Like,
sorry,
I don't have a whiteboard here.
No, yeah, that's true. Everyone check out the video. I'm sure to be linked in the description. But
we can put a link in the in the post. Yep.
Plug NRG Solar. But yes, the inverter capacity versus the panel capacity.
Yeah.
So from a consumer perspective, most people think of their solar system size by the panel capacity, which is true.
Yeah.
But sort of explaining to people, your 8 kilowatt system is going to produce 6 kilowatts.
Yeah. It's going to clip or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right. And why that's actually a good thing. Like it's difficult to explain in words, I think. And there's a lot of jargon in solar, and people are, worried about spending all of this money and
so how do you explain that? Like, I come across that conversation at least once every 2 days, maybe every day. So I get there, do an inspection, and a lot of the time the inspections I do, whether it's a solar vehicle or whatever, 6.6 kilowatts, right? And it's connected to a 5 kilowatt inverter. I get there and they're like, I've never seen it go over 5. Like it gets to 5 and just stops. I saw it go to 50, 20
must be broken.
Yeah.
Something wrong with it.
Yeah. I thought this was a 6.6 kilowatt system. What's going on?
How many of my panels aren't working? Yeah.
So I try and explain it the best I can. I got my way. I don't know if I do it really well. How would you explain that to someone who doesn't really understand it? Where would you sort of go with that?
To try and keep it quick, I would say, yes, your solar system has two sizes.
Yep.
It's best practice for us to do that. There's a whole range of reasons why, but the three biggest ones are, first of all, by having a bigger net to capture with, it means that earlier in the day and later in the afternoon, that inverter is going to be at full tilt.
Yep.
The second reason is, birds are going to sit on your panels and clouds are going to go over. And when that happens, you'll have your little dips in the sort of ceiling, but your inverter, again, is still working at full tilt.
Yep.
And then the third one is your government rebates are off your systems, like your panel size, not your inverter size. Do you want more money from the government? And they go, yes, of course, please.
I've never thought of saying it that way. I knew that, but I've never thought of saying it that way about the government rebates.
Yeah.
That's a good
And,
point.
I think it's one of those ones, I think it's very Australian to try and get as much as you can. It's a good deal. But they should. They absolutely should. It's not only best for their production, but they should get as much as they can from STCs.
Yeah, that's right. And even though they may not be getting the most production during the middle of the day, because it's going to be a flatter curve during the middle of the day, it's still going to provide a bit more certainty to the utilities because the curve's flat. It's going to be more predictable how much solar is going to be coming back to them.
Yeah. Well, these days, a lot of panels are east-west anyway.
Exactly.
10 years ago, it probably was a bigger deal because right in the peak of the middle, you had your very sharp bell curve.
Yep.
But these days, they're flatter bell curves anyway.
Yeah.
The east and west facing panels are better for a lot of people. That's when they use their power, morning and afternoon.
Yeah, no one's home not no one, but generally speaking, not as many people are home in the middle of the day.
Or it's the spike when the kids get home from school and even if you want to put your aircon on a timer for self-consumption, as we should.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to do that in the mid to late afternoon so the house is cool and warm when they get home. And so chuck those panels on the west. Put them where they're going to use the power.
Most definitely. When do you reckon we're going to get off-peak rates in the middle of the day? That's something that it's like. Do
you guys have solar sponge here? We call it shoulder rate.
Yes, we do. We do have shoulder rate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
we do.
I mean, I don't know. I think the way things are sort of moving the opposite direction, not really in that direction as much as I'd like personally.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Sure.
I'd love to be wrong. I'd very much love to be wrong.
Well, I must say, I'm old enough to remember when people used to have this way before solar, when there was a lot of electric hot water services, and they would come on at 11 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
So you get an off-peak rate between 11 and I think 7 a.m., something like that. Now it's everything. The whole grid's changed. So the power is all being produced in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. So things have changed a hell of a lot more than they used to be. Be good to see sort of tariffs reflect that a little bit. But I think, let's talk about flexible export anyway.
Yeah.
Let's say it's a really interesting.
Before we do, have you heard of the green catch?
Green catch.
Do you know catch power?
I know catch power, yeah.
Oh, I love catch power.
Yeah.
Good people. The green catch is really interesting. I think it's really clever. So what they do is they've got it's designed for controlled load like hot water and works beautifully with solar. So what it can do is it looks for a 500 watt
load
surplus going to the grid. And at that point it will divert power to
I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Really cool, really clever, and just simple, right? Like it's not, I think that some of the other integrated stuff with their catch control also really clever, also in the right place, really, really good. But in SA, I don't know, maybe it's just the sort of position we're in where there's just heaps of power going into I think it's the case everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people have heaps of power going in the grid in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So,
well, the penetration in South Australia is quite high of solar.
Over 2/3 of homes, I think it is.
Yeah,
some of the highest in the world.
Some of the highest in the world, exactly right.
I actually thought that catching the train down here, I was like, lots of empty roofs, guys.
Yeah.
Vic's got to catch up.
Yeah, you're right. Although, look, you probably find a lot of the more inner city, or not so much inner city, but see, Melbourne was built also on the train line, basically. So where you would have been going, you probably saw a lot of terracotta roofs.
Yeah, I did.
Because you would have, because because Melbourne was basically built on the train line. The further away you get from the train line is the newer the houses are. So I mean, there's a lot of old terracotta roofs near the train lines.
I don't love that for you guys.
No, it's not great. It's not great. But if you go you probably walk around Carrum because there's a lot of newer houses around Carrum. You have a look around. There's a fair bit of solar around Carrum now. And you go to the outer suburbs and there's much more with the newer estates.
Yeah. Do you think terracotta scares a lot of people for solar here?
Does it ever?
Scares
me.
Customers or scares installers?
I don't think it's... customers probably don't really know enough about it. They probably know their roof's a bit old and they're not sure whether they can do it or not. I think it definitely scares installers.
Yeah.
There's some that are really good at it. Some that are really good. But it's not just... They're not just terracotta. They're like old terracotta. So it's like walking on biscuits.
Yep.
Nightmare.
How's your leg going? You recovered?
Pretty much. No, funnily enough, that was a cement tile.
Oh, God.
They were very old cement.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much recovered now. I've got the slightest little scab where the stitches were now. It's going to scar it pretty bad, I think.
Battle wounds.
It is a battle wound. But that's, it's just one of the parts of the job.
Tell your kids that you fought a shark or something.
Yeah. Maybe I should.
All right, flexible exports.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What does this mean? So this is you guys in South Australia. You've been doing flexible exports for 2 years now? Is that right?
No. So the program rolled out a year and a bit ago.
Year and a bit.
We at NRG have been doing flexible exports for a while.
So it's not mandatory yet, is it?
It is per suburb. So they're rolling out basically it's like per postcode.
Yeah,
so the southern side of Adelaide's pretty well all covered, and then there's a few sections here or there.
Yeah,
it's pretty well rolling out from where it already is for the most part. So you sort of know where's next thereabouts. It's going to be next to where it already is.
They're working their way up kind of thing.
Well, they targeted the trial was the first thing, and that was in this one or two areas with really high congestion in the grid. So like Hallett Cove and Mitcham area.
Yeah.
And we did the first ever flexible export site, which was one of our team members' homes.
Yeah,
and quite a lot in the trial period.
Yep.
And then they started rolling it out. Now everyone, once you're in that suburb, it's based on the SA Power Networks application. We call them SEGs.
Yep.
And if the SEG's done after it's in your postcode, you need to be on flexible exports. So you need the right sort of equipment that can do it, or you're locked to 1.5 kilowatts of export.
Right.
per phase.
Okay, so does that mean if you've got a 1.5 kilowatt system, let's say is this on old systems too?
No,
not
not
only
retroactive.
on the new ones.
Only new installs.
Only new installs.
So that's why it's on like the SEG. The new
Okay, so it's
application.
on the new segs. Okay, so you got to have an application. Yeah.
But in saying that, if you've got an old system and you're trying to put something alongside it,
Let me guess, they add to it.
the whole
Yes,
site has
okay.
to comply.
Okay.
So it basically, like, not always, but more times than not, it's going to mean you're either going to basically be exporting nothing,
Yep.
or you're going to have to start from scratch.
So have you? Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
It's a tricky situation to put people in. Like, I think it's unfortunately it's not great for the early adopters.
Yeah.
But most of those systems as well, they're probably on the older side of things, and
Yeah.
the newer panels will like last them longer and do them a lot more, and it probably swings and roundabouts. It's rough to tell somebody.
Yeah.
We've
especially
probably
if
gotta
they've
start over.
well, especially if they've spent 10 grand on their system 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a piece of hardware where they can adopt which can sort of is there
Catch power kind of.
Catch power sort of does it?
If it integrates. But I think, what's really important to keep in mind is that a lot of these inverters were built before export control was a dream.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you shouldn't really expect some of this older kit to be pulled
That's
up
right.
to speed.
They were pretty dumb inverters almost, weren't they?
It's a product of its time.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it's probably reaching the end of life, and but there's a lot in the middle. There is a lot in the middle with systems that are maybe 4 years old. People have now bought, say, an electric vehicle, and they know they need more solar. And you got to be like, sorry.
Really? So
Just
even
doesn't
systems that are 4 years old can't really.
It depends on what it is, right? Like a
Fronius will
Fronius
do it.
snap inverter, 100%. But then we have to worry that, you need the right combination and the right kit to have multiple inverters on the same.
Well, sorry, this is getting extremely complex.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it is. It is. But that's this gives you an idea of the nature of the conversation we're having with a lot of customers.
Yeah, that's difficult. Like, have you got like a cheat sheet or something? Or you almost can't have one because
It's all up here, baby, all up here.
it
But
is.
it is tricky. Like, it's per brand, and across different brands generally doesn't work on the same side, and blah 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 blah. And people are working on it, right? Like, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
But end of the day, we're expecting these huge international manufacturers to make incredible infrastructure for one little teeny tiny part of the market. And, SA has been leading the way for a while in a really good way. But like, I get why, a lot of these companies are just, taking a bit of time to get to it. Not all modern inverters can do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the big good players that can, right? Like, the names you'd expect.
Yep.
And, I guess they all have their own integration with it. But it's really hard to explain to a customer. And you've just talked about like the smarter homes regs that are definitely in play for everyone. And you've just talked them through the design and, everything else, all the other jargon, and they're feeling like a full sponge. And you're trying to shove more in. It's a lot.
That's quite difficult. So with it, like I'm still learning a lot about it too. I know a little bit about flexible export. So you got your distributor, SA Power Networks. Are they the ones calling for do they push the button as to how much you can export?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So instead of the old model of it's like your flat 5 kilowatts per phase export limit, the new model is 1.5 to 10 kilowatts per phase. So just for the sake of, if it was a 3-phase home, you'd be between 4.5 and 30 if you have a system big enough to capitalize on that.
Yep.
And SA Power Networks control it quite, like it's quite region based. So some areas will get ramped back quite a bit.
Yeah.
Some regions will.
That'd be based on infrastructure, wouldn't it? Like how their transformers are all going to handle it, and what loads are in the area.
Mostly load, like supply and demand is the biggest trigger. So the times where people are most likely to be curtailed is going to be middle of the day, probably in the weekdays. Nobody's home to use all of this extra power.
Yeah.
And, a smart system will always take care of your house's load first. And it's only your extra. And I think that's another thing that's hard to, it's hard for a consumer to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
But, working with smart kit and with manufacturers who are, really, really clever, helps a lot.
Yeah, interesting. Do you get any data on or any notice, I suppose, as to when SA Power Networks are going to do what they're going to do with the exporting and what they
No.
want to do?
No, not really.
So it's like, obviously it's not random, and it's going to be based. I don't know. Is it based on times? Is it based on loads? Is it based on the sun? Do they predict it, or do they?
They don't predict it. It's based on like the live readings, as I understand it.
They basically have someone sitting there with a button going,
basically.
"Oh, let's turn this suburb off."
Big
or let's
red shiny button, yeah.
Mm.
But it's not going to go straight from 10 to 1.5. You know,
Yeah,
like there'll be
of
times
course.
where it'll be 5 or 3
Yeah,
or
hence
7.
the flexible.
Yeah, flexi.
Okay.
I think. Look, there is a lot to it, and it does feel like a lot, but it is way smarter. Because the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of times in SA where we have too much power and we're at risk of a blackout.
Yep.
And for most people, their solar's not going to do anything for them in a blackout.
Of course.
Exclusions to PV point Fronius owners or battery owners, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, most people, it's way better for them to be able to export a bit less than be in a blackout. But again, it's a lot of education for a customer. And though it almost like is good in a way to have to teach them a lot about it, not a lot of companies.
So they're invested more in their system?
Yeah. They're watching their monitoring more. They're using their power when they have it. They're you know, they're bought into the apps and the consumption monitoring, and they get more out of it. I'd say, to answer your question properly, you can't really see it easily. Like you kind of have to sort of go, well, it's curtailed for a couple of hours on a nice day. In a weekday, it was probably export limiting. It was probably flexi.
Yep.
But I believe Catch Power can tell you that information if you've got a Catch Power rebate.
Catch Power.
I believe that they can or will be able to. I hope I haven't spilt the beans on something that's future and not yet.
Look, but the thing is, look, whether it comes now or in the future, it's coming.
It's cool,
so it's this technology is with us now.
Well, I'm campaigning to Fronius that it should be visible on the monitoring there, because I think that I've said it to them before, and I'm sure they're working on it. But I think that it would be really handy, you know, not just for flexible exports, but as other DNSPs bring out similar programs.
Yeah.
So that when you're trying to help a customer understand what they're looking at, you can say, yes, it's definitely this.
Yep.
Or no, let's figure out why your system's curtailing. Because, you know, unfortunately, it could hide a symptom of a bigger issue if we don't know. We sort of have to go, yeah, probably. It's not ideal.
Interesting. So is this all really helping? Like, this seems to me like a positive thing, right? Even though there's a bit of pain and a bit of explanation and all this sort of stuff. Like, this seems to be a positive thing for, I suppose, for the industry and for the grid.
Yeah.
With the pain that goes with it. But is this getting us all ready for EVs?
Well, it's funny, as you're sort of citing that, I think it does prime people a bit. It does prime people a bit for for stuff that's now like Amber, for example, which I'm personally a big proponent of. I think that their system is super cool.
Yep.
People are utilizing or they're letting their energy play the energy market kind of thing. I think that stuff is just really, really cool. And, you know, if you want to buy into it, you can. And if you want to sort of set and forget it, you can do that too. I just think that's amazing. And, you know, that only compounds with EVs. That's the next step. That's your big battery on wheels.
Basically,
We heard about this customer who has 3 Nissan Leafs. Three. One he uses, one his wife uses, and one that's literally just a battery sitting at his house so that he can play the Amber energy market. That's amazing.
Yeah, wow.
Super cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So, like, you know, on a day where the spot price, which in Adelaide is pretty volatile, I think it can get up to like $22 a kilowatt hour or something like that. And so he just dumps
$22 a kilowatt hour.
And then he just dumps his Leafs battery into the grid and gets like, you know, good couple $100. It's amazing.
How good's that?
Yeah.
That is quite amazing. Well, this is coming to Victoria, everyone.
Yeah.
So I've got to be a bit more over this, but I think they've mentioned like 1st of July. It's become, but I also did hear that there's some DNSPs that said, oh, even though it's mandatory, we're not ready yet. So that's what I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's taken a while for SAPN. Like, there's definitely been some bumps and bruises, and maybe like we talked about earlier, hopefully there's a bit of communication and a bit of learning from mistakes happening. I really hope so. But we were expecting that it would be all of SA by the end of last year originally. It's still being rolled out now. Some sources say July this year. I think it's probably end of this year.
Why is it taking time? It's been delayed, has it?
Yeah, I think from our experience, the portal, so you have to do a specific, like a capability test is what they call it, which is essentially SA Power Networks checking that it can do the level of control it needs and that it has like a secure enough connection and such.
Yep.
And the portal has been a bit buggy, as these things tend to be. But, you know, we've been very happy with the support we've gotten, you know, in terms of getting sites sorted. It's basically a full-time job for our 2 IC electrician at the moment. Stefan's doing doing a lot of work there at the moment, trying to get them all compliant. But it's like an extra step when installers have a lot to do, as we all know.
Yeah, right. So all these systems, they have to be, it's part of flexible export, like they have to be connected to the internet, don't they?
Well, they had to be online anyway. So we've had smarter homes since 2020, late 2020, I think it was.
Right.
Do you know smarter homes?
Not really, no.
It's kind of like the...
we're in such a bubble here in Victoria. We've got our own stuff going on. I try and
I gotta get over here. It's way easier. So smarter homes is like the prelude, like the training wheels version of flexible exports, which was a bit closer to like it's curtailing. So when there's too much power in the grid, they have a big red shiny button. It's not area specific, and they just curtail. Oh, maybe it is area specific. Anyway, they curtail systems, but it's like to zero export. So a dumber system would just turn off. A smarter system will go to zero export.
Right.
Your Froniuses, your end phases, etc.
They ramp down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I've got a lot to learn about all this.
Yeah, well, you know, I think I found this a lot at All Energy last year. I had a lot of people from Victoria and a lot of people from Queensland asking me about it because, you know, I mean, the systems are going to be a little bit different, but there's going to be a lot of similarity. And, you know, I don't know, I put my hand up to say that I'm happy to help people. I think
Don't say it too loud. Your phone's going to be going hot.
I'd rather you know, I think we had to practice on our customers a bit.
Yeah.
I don't really want everyone else to have to do that.
It's a hard lesson, that one.
Yeah. You know, I think we've lesson learned. I think we're pretty good at it now.
Yeah.
But if you don't have to.
Yeah.
I'll show the government how it's done, you know, I guess.
For sure. Well, let's learn from, it'd be great. No, but this is sort of going back to the New South Wales rebate stuff. Let's learn from the mistakes and the growing pains from South Australia. And there's a lot more people in Melbourne too. Like, how many are in Adelaide? Is it about 1 million, between 500,000 to 1 million, something like that? I don't know.
It's
whatever
not many.
it is.
It's like a couple.
Yeah. Well, you've basically got 5 million people in Melbourne, and you know, plus all the other areas as well. I think 7 million or something, 6, whatever it is. Millions and millions of people in Victoria are going to be going through this.
Yeah.
So we need to learn these lessons. And you've already done it. So
yeah. Well, as I understand it, you guys have a big swaths of areas. Swaths, is that the right word? You have areas where there's zero export here, is that right?
Yeah, we have some zero export areas. I'm not over all that, to be honest. But there are some areas where the exporting is different. So we've got 5 different distributors.
Yeah.
Based on areas. And they all have different rules and requirements, is my understanding.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
That sounds very fun.
I mean, I think they've all, a lot of them follow similar rules. I know, like with the inverter settings, we have our settings on Australia A.
Yeah, same for us.
It's your Australia A as well, yeah. So that's the same through every state, which is great. That's really good. So that's something. So hopefully they do have the same rules with this. I'm not over that though. I'm going to have to learn about it.
Yeah. Look, there's going to be a lot of learning for a lot of people, but it is, you're right though. It is a good thing. Like it is a very good thing for our industry. And you know, like it is, the whole world is looking to how Australia and how SA is doing this. You know, like a lot of people who are about to hit the same grid issues that we're having. You hear a lot of people banging on about, I don't know if did you see the ads? I think you've talked about this, the ads for the gas companies.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
Absolutely. I'm like, turn it off. But you know, like this attitude is getting a foothold because, you know, the confused mind says no, right? Like it sounds really confusing and really scary, and we need to be good at making it an easy conversation and, you know, not lying to people and saying this is a good thing. This is a really good thing for everyone. Even if it doesn't feel like it, it is, I promise.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a challenge. I know, you're right. I've mentioned in another episode, it drives me nuts, like when the wind isn't blowing and the sun's not shining, and then
what are you going to do at nighttime?
Yeah, exactly. You see this gas-fired turbine kick in or whatever, and then someone's able to turn a light on. Like it's just like it's
fear. It's fear based, and it shouldn't be scary. Like it should be exciting.
Yeah,
I think maybe I'm just like in the right generation. I can't believe this. I didn't talk about any of this in my like interview for NRG Solar, but I did like a bunch of solar related like nanotechnology stuff in high school, and I was like super into but I didn't bring any of this up until like way after the fact. I think my marketing manager was doing like my profile for the website.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had solar panels in my bedroom window charging my phone and laptop. And she was like, you didn't raise this at all before this?
Yeah.
I did this like little project about like how to increase the surface area of like a phone case with nanotechnology pyramids and a laser. It was sick. It was awesome. I didn't bring any of this up until way after. But like I've known since I was very young that solar's the way to go. Like renewables and solar, and like, our generation knows that that's where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
The gas industry is like a bunch of offshore people making a lot of money. It does nothing for the Australian economy. Sorry to put this on blast on the podcast, but
I love it.
Like, it doesn't do anything. We're propping up an industry that's not helping Australia.
Yeah.
Like, the technology is so close to being there.
Yeah.
We just got to get on board. And a lot of people are. But I don't know. I guess this is my life and my career now is just being like, this is it. Like, I want to be a part of it. I want to be the person taking that next step.
You're definitely part of it.
And so I will.
You're actually, sounds like you're steering the ship, to be honest.
Well, that's the aim. That's the solar superhero right there, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful. Love it. How good. All right, Jess. So I want to have a little bit of a chat about how important it is to have like a personalised customer experience and customer service side of things in solar. How critical do you think it is to have a personalised service in solar?
Yeah, it's like picking your audience in a way. Like we recently did solar for my mum. Yep. She wants to get off of gas. She's well on her way there. Her stove and her heating are done now. Oh, and the hot water. So I think she's pretty well done on the completely off of gas.
Yeah, right. Is gas big in Adelaide?
Pretty big.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
Like everyone in Victoria pretty much had, well, not now, but had gas. It was like huge and everyone had gas, central heating and all that. Is it the same in Adelaide? Yeah. Okay.
And it's pretty like still pretty encouraged. Like a lot of new builds still get gas, which is a little disappointing. But my mum, who I didn't really realize until the last few years of my life, is like a lot more of a hippie than I'd ever like given her credit for. Like I love it. But my mum's a university professor, so she doesn't give the vibe, but she definitely is like at heart. So she's trying to electrify and needed some more solar. She had an old system already on the house from when she bought it.
Yep.
And in doing that, not just because her daughter is pretty invested in the solar industry, like even if it was anyone else, like she wants to know that it works and she wants to know that it's safe. Yeah. And that's about it. She had a blackout. So she's got a Fronius Gen 24 with PV point. Yep. She calls me up and she's like, oh, yeah, I sort of forgot that you told me the solar doesn't work during a blackout. And I was like, no, that's not what I said at all. I said, go plug into that power point that's right next to your inverter that has power. And she's like, oh, like it's only good if you remember to use it. But,
does she know how to use it now? She knows how to use PV point?
Well, she knows how to plug into the power point that I told her to use. But I love my mom. I respect her very much. She gave me my love for science. And I think it's just one of those things where, again, like you hear all this stuff and then, a week after or probably even a day after the sale's done, you probably don't remember anything other than maybe the panel manufacturer. Like, a consumer generally, like it feels really important and then they make the decision and it just totally washes out of their minds, I think, a lot. Yep. But then on the other foot, you have people who are incredibly invested. Like I have a customer that I've been working with for a little while now who's really, really interested in amber, like really loves it. Yep. And so and they've got 2-phase power at their home, so there's some technical constraints to make sure the system will do all the things that he wants it to do. Yep. And it's a sort of a challenge of like, it's pretty easy to tick 2 out of 3 boxes and I want to tick all 3 for him. And he's highly technical. Like I don't think he's an electrician, but he's a tradie and he knows a lot about what we're talking about. Yep. And so, we are in the trenches of the technical talk, which I love. I love being able to do with people. So, it is like, if I did that to my mom, she would have said no to even me, her daughter,
Yeah.
about the new solar. But, you know, there's got to be a bit of compromise, because as we spoke about, having an education about how your system uses. I like to say that you should have a comfortable understanding of your system.
Yep.
You know, like my job is to give you a comfortable understanding. And
Just that base level, is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And for my mum, comfortable is on, good, great. And, you know, for my customer who's really into the sort of techie future stuff,
Yep.
he wants the nitty gritty. He wants to know exactly what's talking to what and, you know, how it's all, what the order of operations is. And so tailoring that experience is, you know, I wouldn't even say it takes more time.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that they have what they need to make a decision. It's permanent infrastructure going on their roofs. I think we sort of, I don't know, that really hits me hard, like knowing that the system we're putting on somebody's roof is going to be there for decades.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, I take like personal responsibility of that fact. And I want to know that, you know, they're not going to hate looking at it, or they're not going to, you know, they're not going to regret it. Not that they ever would, but that they're going to be stoked with it. Like, I don't want them to just be like, yeah, that's cool. I spent that money. That feels good. Like, I want them to be so happy. I have customers sometimes that text me and they're like, oh my God, my production was so good today. That's what I want. I want to give that to people.
That's passion. That's passion right there.
Yeah.
Can really see that. But do you like, I suppose this is part of the customer journey, like do you profile your customers and their what you think they know about solar, and then maybe pass them off to different salespeople, or you just try and adapt yourself based on what you know about them?
I actually used to do that, and I don't know whether it was good or bad that I did, but like, you know, for example, if there was a customer who really wanted like a lot of the detail, one of the people in our team, Michael, he's so good with the detail and so good, like so meticulous.
Yep.
And so I would actually, like, when possible, push customers to sort of his way.
Yep.
And then on the other front, Nicola is really, really good at just, I think, like almost like the very emotional conversation about solar and sort of the savings and making that a very emotional journey. And she does it effortlessly, like so beautifully.
Yep.
And so a customer that I thought might respond well to that, I'd like sort of push that way.
So you're saying you still do that, or you used to do that?
I don't delegate leads anymore. Like that's like my old job.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But I think it is picking and being this, you know, it's sales, right? It's being the person that person is looking for in a way, not disingenuous. It's not like a lie, but it's, you know, a bit of a mask that you know, like the true blue Aussie bloke, you might chuck the accent on a little, you know, a little heavy, like that kind of thing, because it makes them comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
And it should be comfortable.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. You're in sales. You want to make them feel good about the purchase as well.
Yeah.
And you want to make it a good transaction, a good experience for everybody.
Yeah, and I think what you said there about like passion, you know, I think somewhat you don't want to like overdo it, right? You kind of like, you know, you want it to be the everyday, but that's the truth. I am full of beans. I get that vibe off you just sitting near you. I can tell you are. Yeah, I'm like, you know, I'm an ambitious person in whatever direction I would have been pointed in. Like, you know, if my life if I had to finish my degree or whatever, I would have done it over there instead. But I think ambition can feel like a bit of a scary or abrasive word, but I think I've been really lucky. Like a lot of the people I've been surrounded with or that I've looked up to have been like, yeah, like let's go this way. Like great. Absolutely. Alex from I Want Energy mentors me out of like his own time. He has like a business that he runs or helps run and he still takes the time to do that. The people at AWISE, Solar Cutters, like a lot of these communities that, you know, when they are the spaces that they're trying to be, for people like me, like it makes me want to be a part of them so much. Yeah,
it's we sort of touched on this before. It's actually a really good community of people that we work with in our industry.
Yeah,
and we're all from different walks of life. We're all from different parts of the country. And we all have a common goal in place, and I think everyone's really supportive as well. And quite ambitious too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably why you fit in quite well, I think, because I can see you're quite ambitious, and a lot of people in the industry are, and we're all trying to do some really special things.
I think it was Andy McCarthy who said co-opetition.
Co-opetition.
He
actually did a LinkedIn post yesterday where he spoke about it again.
It's good. It's good stuff. Like, And, you know, I mean, a lot of us, when we're in like different states and things, we don't really feel like we're directly competing.
Yeah.
But, you know, even other companies in SA, like, I'll be honest, sometimes I'll have a customer send me a quote for another business that I'm like, you know what, like, they would take, you know, they do a good job for you too.
Yeah.
Like NRG would do better in, you know, maybe in my biased opinion, but like, you know, like I'm not too mad. I'm not that upset if you go that direction instead.
Yeah.
On the other front, there are some quotes that I get that I'm like, please,
Just
don't do anything. Like, don't buy solar at all before you do that.
I get it. You have a look and I've had this conversation before. I think it might have been with Peter Leeson, where someone was looking at a quote with him. This is when I don't know, for some reason he was doing some sales, but they were looking at it, going, "Oh, I'm looking at this quote, and you know, seeing what you can offer us." And then we've got this other one. It was actually one from Andy. So it must have been a few years ago because it was from Gippsland Solar. Mm-hmm. And Pete's like, "Oh, look, yeah, Andy runs a really good show. Yeah, look, maybe go with them." Like,
but it's insidious as well because, like, you know, we've been talking about this recently. There's a I definitely won't name names.
Yep.
But there's a company in SA who, in our opinion, we don't think are giving the best quality, giving the best bang for buck. Definitely not on the sort of the high tier of service that we'd put ourselves in.
Yep.
But they've been telling their customers to come get a quote from us because our quote will be way higher than theirs. And so then they like, you know, they just like,
that's dirty, isn't it?
It is. It really is because they're like sort of trying to put themselves in the same category of service without doing the work. And, you know, it's like really, I don't know, just disappointing. Like it's just slimy. And, you know, there's there's a very saturated industry. There's a lot of, everyone and their dog's doing solar, right?
Yeah.
And you expect it here and there from the certain players or the men in the vans.
Yeah.
But like you also sort of like, come on, mate. Like it's just not on.
That's not good. Let me guess. I'm not going to name any names. Do they use retired cricketers?
Look, I feel like I give too much away.
No, that's all right. No, don't say anything. No, we don't want you to incriminate anyone.
I will say, I think it was maybe a year back, but there was somebody on Cutters, like good people who did that spruik ad of like, we don't do cricket, we just do solar.
Yeah, I saw that.
I thought that was the best thing. Like marketing money well spent.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
I hope they did well off it. I really do. Like, I hope that it was like a well-performing campaign for them.
Oh, still makes me cringe as a cricketer myself. Just a park cricketer playing low-grade cricket, and I get put in the same boat as these solar companies.
Yeah.
It's no good.
Maybe that's how you should advertise South Wales solar inspections. Get you in the cricket gear.
Oh, maybe. Oh, we haven't
Are
really
you
thought of
wanting
that.
for work? Or?
Not really.
Yeah.
I don't really want just anyone calling us up, that's for sure, to do inspections.
But it's true. Like you are trying to sort of hit a certain audience of people who care about their system.
For
you know?
sure.
Like there are plenty of people who, you know, maybe they're just flipping investment properties or whatever it is. And like for those people, like we're probably not your install. Like we're probably not the right fit. Like we'd love to help you out.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you don't care about all the after sales service and having a good experience, well then don't pay for it. Fair enough.
That's it. You just go with the cheapest if you want.
Well, you know, we'll see the new owner in 3 years when their system's blown up and they need someone.
Everyone says that, don't they? Everyone I speak to says that same thing. That's fine. Go with them. That's okay. But we'll see you in 3 years.
Yeah. Well, and we do, like the number of people who call us, especially like they went solar elsewhere and they come back to us for a battery. Yeah. And they're like, I should have just done it.
Yeah.
You know, I should have just gone with you guys. You know, I knew in my bones, and we're like, yeah, you should have. Let us fix it now. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's cool.
I don't know. You don't want to sound like, you know, you want to be like humble. You don't want to sound arrogant. Yeah. But you know, in truth, like, I am in the incredibly fortunate position where I'm selling a product and an experience that I truly believe in. Yeah. And I've seen what, you know, like not only would I put it on my grandma's house, I put it on my mom's house. Like I genuinely did because it's a good experience. It's worth every cent. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. That's some wise words there. Would you put it on your grandma's house? That's a good one. That's a good one. Quite like that. All right. Well, I think we might move into some industry news which has happened over the last week or so. So we're recording this. What's the date today? 31st of May, about to go into winter. On the 29th of May was the last day of the CEC being the holders of the accreditation program. So that's been, I think, 16 years they've held it. And there's been a bit of a hybrid, a changeover period with the last 3 years. So that's it. CEC are now out of small-scale solar. No more accreditation. I got an email on Wednesday, I think, saying that my accreditation for the CEC is no longer valid. And they put a bit of a spiel in their email saying, it's been a pleasure being the holders of the accreditation for the last 16 years. And they're here to still support the industry in whatever way they can. So that's it. We're on to SAA.
Is that a bit bittersweet for you?
It's not bitter. I don't know. I don't know, actually. Yeah, look, it was probably time, I think, with the CEC. Like, I think Kane probably said it reasonably well when they first spoke about how they were not going to put their hand up for the accreditation. I think everyone was a bit shocked by that. That might have been 18 months ago or whatever. So they weren't going to put their hand up to keep running the accreditation program, but they were still happy to help if no one else or a suitor wasn't found. I sort of thought, as soon as he said that, I'm like, yeah, well, your focus isn't really on small scale anymore. You're more focused on your wind, on your large scale solar. And I feel like he sort of said those words then, that we want to do the best for our industry, and we feel focusing on those larger things is a place where we can have more of an impact. And I suppose if you speak to a lot of people, they would probably think that that's been the case for the last 10 years anyway, that there've been more. And I can sort of say, working there, I felt that a little bit. Like, there was always this, inside every organisation, there's always a little bit of tension between different departments. And there was always a little bit of a push and pull between the small scale side and the policy and advocacy side.
I've heard it said like it's like sitting at the kiddie table kind of thing a little bit.
It was a little bit, and it sort of almost sounds like I'm talking down about the CEC and I'm saying that they haven't done a good job. I think they have done a good job. But
it's a hard gig, right?
It was really difficult. Most definitely, it was. I think they were sort of put in a position where they were trying to be the installers' best friends, and also like with trying to help the industry, and then also doing the compliance. And that's a difficult place to be in. And then you've got all these other people saying, well, you don't actually care about solar because you've got all these other companies that are in large scale that are doing stuff which is not going to help the small scale industry. And there was things like they had sponsoring members like Adani. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was a little while ago, but that was a really big thing, and they copped a lot of backlash for accepting them as sponsoring members.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hard gig. Like, I think I've heard a lot of, and not to change track too much, but I've heard a lot of people complaining about the SAA response time.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's, you kind of got to, I think you've said similar before, like just give a little bit of, a little bit of grace. Like I'm seeing a lot of people just post on Cutters after, like it seems like it's like you sent the email 30 seconds ago, didn't you, mate? Like, not to say that what they're talking about isn't important. And I understand that, we've had installers that haven't been able to submit STCs for a week too. And it's frustrating. Yeah. I don't want to pretend otherwise. But also like, these are people.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
In a brand new organisation that is way, way more dedicated to, entrenched in our space. Absolutely entrenched. Good people leading the charge on it.
For sure.
And like, just let's give them a minute. And then, you can be as critical as you want once they had a second to be on their feet. Because they picked up a pretty big flag.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's why I feel quite optimistic about our industry and where SAA are going.
Yeah.
So you can see the people at the helm and the people who are advising SAA are right in the middle of the small scale industry. Now you compare that to what the CEC had. So you basically had an executive leadership team honestly, none of the people in the executive leadership team understood small scale solar. So they understood what people were telling them who were working at the CEC, but they didn't really understand the industry. And they had the people in the large scale paying the bills.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a better space now, and hopefully, maybe the CC would agree with that. I'm not really sure, but I think they can now concentrate on what they're good at, and that's the policy and advocacy side, and lobbying politicians and all that sort of stuff to get good results for large scale, which is that's where they should be. Now we've got SAA doing the accreditation for designers and installers, and it's run by people who understand our industry. So I think we're in a better place. It's going to take a little bit of time to get it to a point where we're going to be. I think they're still finding their feet. Like, it's been 3 months. It's going to take a little while. It's going to take a little while for them to find their feet and be able to move the industry forward. But I'm quite optimistic and I'm quite hopeful. So please hold on, everyone. They're doing their best. I know they are. They actually have been good with their communication. Anytime, I think twice I've mentioned them on this podcast where I've had like a semi-whinge and they've got back to me straight away both times, really quick. So,
or even, without the platform, like I said, like we've had a couple of installers that, it wasn't as seamless. A few of them that it was, and a few of them that it wasn't. And, again, like, I don't know. I think that anyone who, I don't want to rag on the cutters post because I appreciate that they're in a hard spot, but like, I don't know, you just can't expect that quick of a response to an email. Like, you just got to give it a minute. And I get that it's difficult, but I'm sure that the early days of the CEC was exactly the same. Like,
it would have been. For sure. And the CEC weren't dealing with, I think we've got 9,500 installers now.
It's a backlog.
Yeah, when I was at the CEC, I think when I started there at the start of 2017, I think we were sitting at around about 4,000 installers. I remember they did this ceremony thing where there was the 5,000th installer. Ooh. Yeah, and they did this thing, and I think they might have met up with Jeff Stapleton, who was like number one, and they presented him with this big certificate or anyway, whatever. So it's basically doubled in that time, pretty much. Like, I'm sure 10,000 installers is not that far away. It's a lot of people to move from one program to the next to transition. So,
and and like everyone's going on about their CDP points, but like, I don't know, I kind of feel like the amount of complaint is the same. It's just pointed in a different direction now. It's kind of like, I don't know, guys. I know it's annoying, but nothing's new here. It's all the same.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so all I would say to SAA, just keep the communication up and just keep letting us know what's happening, and that would be appreciated, I think, by everyone. And just keep hanging in there, and everyone. Just keep cutting them slack because I know they're doing their best. Now, the only other thing I wanted to mention is a bit self-indulgent now. We've released our first CPD course.
Probably the best CDP course that's ever existed.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. We'll see. But it's the first one we've released from South Wales Solar Inspections. We've produced an online video training on testing a solar installation, and it goes through all the mandatory tests. We did a bit of a pilot on it last week and got some great feedback from some great people in the industry. Thanks so much for that. It was really, really good. And then, so we released it this week, and it's been quite popular. I've been quite happy with so far. People have been giving us some good feedback, suggesting some other things that we could do. And it's out there. It's in the market. So
get on it.
Yeah, if you want 15 CPD, jump on to southwalessolariinspections.com.au. And there it is. There's a tag for CPD, and we'll have more CPD courses coming out. We're actually producing them as we speak. So it's some way, I think, hopefully I can help the industry from what I see as an electrical inspector, because there's a lot of stuff we see. And we just want to make the industry better. And some of the things I do see are quite they're fundamental principles about electrical installations or solar. And this is quite a basic video, this first one, on testing. Something you probably learn as a second year apprentice or something like that, how to test, and we've adapted it to solar. But a lot of people still don't get it right, or they don't bother doing it. So, and even if they do, it's a good refresher.
You can do it any time, right, this course?
Yeah, you can do it any time. It takes around about an hour to do. And there's a quiz at the end of about 15 questions. So, yeah, it's just got me banging on about testing. I don't think I mentioned I think I do mention mandatory inspections. I think I mentioned it once, but I just sort of say that in Victoria we have them. And if you're in a state that doesn't have them, then this is what you should be doing anyway. And it's part of being a licensed electrical worker.
I think if you didn't mention it, we'd be worried about you, Pat. I think we'd have to rush you straight to the ED.
It's sort of really, I don't know how it became my thing now. Everyone's asking me about it now.
A good thing to be known for.
I suppose so.
Soon to be your singing ability, but for the moment, the inspections.
We'll wait till we see what the recording on was. There might be some editing. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up in a sec. I just wanted to go for any closing remarks you've got, Jess. I've really appreciated you making the journey from Adelaide to come and head down to Carrum and have a chat about the industry and about your career. Have you got any sort of closing remarks for us?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to really thank everyone. Like, I feel a little infamous. A lot of people who sort of like have sought me out to talk to me, and I said to you, you know, I think it's easy for somebody in my position to feel like a little fish, but you know, I think I want to have an impact, and it's one of those like you do by just doing kind of situations, and I'd love to keep doing more stuff in this space and be out there and educating and sharing the passion. And a big thank to Eddie for putting my flights on his Qantas points.
On you, Eddie.
On you, Eddie, and for all the NRG stuff for being super supportive, and all the lovely people who've been involved and supported me, and I can't wait to give back a bit.
Perfect. Well, you certainly are. And I reckon you're going somewhere in this industry, Jess. I can just feel it. Really, it's great to see young people coming through. And, you know, jump in, do it now, because before you know it, you're going to be old and like me, and you'll be like, oh, has my chance passed me by? But no, it hasn't. There's still plenty of time. But yeah, you are having an impact. There's no doubt about it. And, yeah, I knew I wanted you to come on this podcast as soon as we started.
An honour.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you deciding to come on. You're actually one of the first people I asked to come on.
Thanks.
So I knew I wanted to have you on. And yeah, it's been a really good decision. So thanks very much for making the journey to Carrum and for all the contributions you've had and the discussions. And everyone in Melbourne and Victoria will know much more about flexible exports, and we've learned from the best in South Australia. So thanks very much. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. Next week's show, going to be a bit of a different show. I'm actually heading down to Hobart to do a recording. I'm actually heading away for the weekend. So someone down in Hobart who I'm going to connect with. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's hope I can work the audio out. That's going to be okay down there. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that yet, but anyway, I'm sure we'll work something out. I think you're heading to Hobart as well, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
There you go.
But I think you've heard enough from me. I think you can just share the love around.
No, fair enough. No,
Are we keeping it a secret? I'm on the edge of my seat.
What's that?
Who is it going to be? I can't wait.
You'll find out. It'll be. It's probably someone who a lot of people may not know in the industry. If you've been around for a while, you might know them in the industry. Someone I know reasonably well, who I've just reconnected with recently. So we'll see. Looking forward to the episode anyway. All right, well, that's it anyway. That's it for this episode 9. Are we 9? Yeah. That's the end of episode 9 of Solar Sidekicks. We'll be coming to you from Hobart next week. Thanks very much, everyone. And till the next time on Solar Sidekicks. Thank you.